There's this thing out there right now. It's called the airport travel theory. And I heard about this a couple weeks ago. It was a head scratcher for me when I heard about it. And I know you travel a ton, Jake, for your gigs, all the interviews you do in the entertainment world. If you haven't been on social media, here's kind of the Cliff Notes version of what this is. It's the idea, it's the airport travel theory. This is the idea that you don't need to get to the airport hours before your flight, but instead you can just show up 15 to 20 minutes before your boarding time. So we're going to play a little video. Now, for a lot of people, this sounds like an absolute nightmare. To me, I would be anxious.
An anxiety-inducing nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. And for others, though, this is their ideal way to travel. You cut down, this is their rationale, you cut down on wasted time and spend less money maybe at the airport on snacks and everything. So we're going to ask an expert here, a travel expert.
Today I'm testing airport theory at the most crowded airport in the entire world. Here we go. So we're here in Atlanta, which literally, according to Google, is the most crowded airport in the whole world. So if airport theory works here, I think it'll work anywhere. We're gonna see how long it takes to get to our gate from the beginning of the airport. All right, just started a timer. Here we go. Looking at the line for TSA pre-check. Literally nobody, guys. A ghost town. So it's gonna be it's a massive line, like huge area. There's just nobody in it. All right, we're through security 7.5 minutes in. I will say there was definitely a lot more people than I thought once I actually got to the line, but still 7.5 minutes, we'll take that. It does seem like they're very prepared for these huge lines. There just wasn't one though. So I don't know if I just came at the right time or what, but airport theory is looking good. I do have to take a tram to my concourse though, right? So I'm at T and I gotta go to A, but it's the next stop. So I don't know, over-under's looking like 12, 13 minutes right now. All right, we're off the tram, headed to the gate. I will say, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the video. I didn't check a bag, but there was no line to check bags at Delta. 0 lines. I forgot to show it. I wish I did, but there's no lines. You gotta take my word for it. Here's a look at foot traffic in the busiest airport in the world by foot traffic. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. And we have officially made it to the gate, just under 15 minutes. So longer than like one of the airports I've done in this series, but still, that's a huge.
Okay.
So I have a lot of issues with that video.
I got questions. He must, I don't know, is he just born with, you know how some people are just like born without the fear gene?
But he's ignoring a whole, okay, we have Janine Tornatore, friend of the show. Thank you for joining us.
Hi,
we
Janine.
appreciate you.
Hey guys, I'm like half laughing, half shaking my head as I'm watching that clip, as I'm sure you are too. I mean, we've all traveled through Atlanta Hartsfield, not that different volume wise than O'Hare many days. My first thought was either he's there at 5:30 in the morning, not there on a day when vacationers are checking their bags. I mean, it's very anecdotal watching these TikTok trend videos, which I think is what's really interesting to me, that they actually do catch on as a trend. Because if you're anyone that's traveled through any of these airports, you've been in the line at Atlanta Hartsfield when you've probably had to wait for 30 or 40 minutes, even in TSA pre-check. I'm even seeing nowadays, you know, as a frequent traveler, I have Clear, which I highly recommend. There are days now when there's 30 people in line for Clear. So, you know, the more popular these kind of things get, you know, the longer the lines become for everybody. But yeah, I think that this trend it's interesting to me that it's catching on, supposedly.
But Janine, I think what bugs me most about that video is it does not impress me that there are no lines at an airport, because you can control what time you leave your house. You cannot control what time you get to the airport. You cannot account for if there's going to be an accident. You know, I take the Kennedy to go to O'Hare, and you know, for a while you had to take that exit and then sort of loop around. You know, so I mean, like showing me that there aren't lines at the airport does not make me rethink. I'm not worried about the airport. I'm worried about the 12 miles I have to travel between my apartment and O'Hare.
I'm worried about the 12 miles and the airport, Janine.
Well, exactly. And it's all of it. It's number one, traffic. That's probably one of the most unpredictable factors, especially for us here in Chicago with expressway construction. Like you said, you never know if there's going to be an accident. Sometimes if there's a lot of volume at the airport, even if you made it all the way to the airport, you get on the exit and it can take a really long time to get up to the terminal. But also, this time of year especially, the volume at the airport itself can be really unpredictable. Business travel is, you know, big right now this time of year. Vacationers completely unpredictable when people are leaving for their vacations. I think one of the only kind of things you can really control is if you're traveling at very off-peak times, if you're taking that 6 a.m. flight and you're literally getting to the airport at 5 in the morning, you can expect that it's probably going to be pretty quiet. But the other thing to consider if you're traveling at those off-peak times is staffing isn't quite up to what it is during the busier periods. So that can even affect how long it can take you to get through some of the lines. There's a lot of factors. Checking your luggage, obviously, if you do have to check luggage, even if there's only a couple people in front of you in line, with staffing shortages these days, that can oftentimes take a while as well. So I do think it is interesting that he is at one of the busiest airports in the country, and he got to his gate in 15 minutes, because the other thing is if you're flying into or out of an airport that you don't know, your gate, we know if you're in the C gates in O'Hare, that can take you a little bit of time as well. So yeah, there are a lot of factors that come into play. And for me, I think the biggest headline is just, like you guys said, anxiety or stress. Who wants to do that to themselves?
I can't deal with it. Some of it is probably about your anxiety and stress tolerance. However, I'm not in that camp. So Janine, when we're in kind of a more formal setting on the news, we tend to default to travel experts say to show up 2 hours before your flight for domestic travel and 3 hours before your flight for international. Do you think those numbers are still, that's good advice, or do you think with trends like this that there's some flexibility there? Or again, like you alluded to, does it all depend on when your flight leaves?
I think that advice is still very sound. 2 hours for domestic, 3 hours for international. And here's why: because it is unpredictable. Aside from the traffic of getting to the airport, when you show up at the airport, you don't know how busy it's going to be that day. You don't know what the staffing levels are going to be. And if there's weather, if there were storms the day before, you may have a lot of people that weren't expecting to be at the airport, but that had to rebook and come back that day. I mean, you guys have probably both experienced it. I have. Some days you show up and it's dead at the airport, and some days you show up and it's exactly the opposite. So I think it's the unpredictability is why you hear travel experts saying 2 hours should be when you get there. It's that safety net for not knowing what it's going to be like at the airport.
And I also think that there is that X factor of knowing yourself. If you're the kind of person that only maybe travels once a year, twice a year, and you can't remember all the different things you have to take off in a security line versus, I travel a lot. I have it down.
You got it down.
Like literally the people at TSA PreCheck know the show and basically are like, just Jake here, there is that, just know yourself well enough to know I'm going to need a little bit more time. I kind of forgot how to do this versus when someone tells me where gate C4 is, I know exactly where to go. There's that difference.
I'm with you right there, and I'll tell you, I'm the same way. I know when I can get there, and I know typically how long it takes me. One of the best investments I did ever make was in the annual subscription to Clear. If you are one of those people and you want to do this airport theory, I highly recommend spend a little bit of extra money, because even if there is a little bit of a line at Clear, that does get you through there rather quickly, and you can shave some time off of your getting to the airport early if you have something like that. TSA PreCheck used to be like that generally. Now a lot more people have that. It's still faster than the general line, but it can take a little bit longer, especially on those periods when, the holidays, the Memorial Day weekend, you have a lot of travelers. I also recommend that, you carry on only, obviously. But, I thought it was interesting. One of the reasons people said that they are trying this theory out is because they don't want to spend not just the time, but the money in the airport for snacks and drinks and things like that before you board your plane. I will tell you, I always travel with a reusable water bottle near the restrooms on almost every airport now. There, you can fill up your water bottle for free. You can bring your own snacks. There are ways around that. So I think, for people that are doing it for those reasons, you can certainly get around that.
You can. And if you miss your flight, you're going to be waiting around for a while. You might need to spend some money. Hey, Janine, before we let you go, I don't fly nearly as often as Jake. And I know that there's probably a threshold for when things like Clear and TSA PreCheck are worth it, depending on the frequency that you travel, and when they're probably not worth it because, I'm a family guy. I'm only hopping a flight once or twice a year. In your mind, how frequent of a flyer should you be to justify the purchase of a TSA PreCheck or a Clear?
I would say, even if you're just traveling over the major holidays, TSA pre-check is definitely worth it. Clear is a little bit more expensive, but not that much. I think that if you're someone who's traveling even, 6, 8 times a year, that can certainly be worth it. I'll tell you, I have 3 kids who are traveling with me as well, and having them be able to come through that clear line with me makes it all worth it, to be honest with you.
Makes sense. Oh my gosh, this is good advice.
This is great advice.
This is good advice. Okay, thank you very much, Janine Tornator. I hope I got that last name correct. Yep. Tornator, travel expert for us on a Tuesday morning. Safe travels to you, Janine. Thank you so much for being on the program.
You too. Good to see you. Thanks.
Would you agree with that? 6 to 8 times
I
probably
think that,
justifies it.
And also too, there's a new sort of an addition to TSA pre-check that they're calling TSA touchless, which you never really know when you're gonna get. What happens is it's sort of TSA plus, in a way. I go through and they scan my eyes. And then, you don't even have to show them the real ID anymore.
Wow.
But another thing that I got recently, because I came back from an international trip and had to wait 3 hours in a line for customs.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought never again, and I ended up doing the global entry thing, which is really great.
Gosh.
So whenever you come back stateside.
Yeah.
Once again,
You zip
scan
through.
your eyes, right on through.
Man,
right on through.
2025 is upon us. The eye scan.
Yeah.
All right, I'm excited
It's
for
like
what's
Minority
coming.
Report.
Yeah, that's right.
Remember? Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.